We have entered an extraordinarily rare moment in humanity's collective journey. The path for generations to come will depend on people alive today. We have an unprecedented crisis for the planet and an unprecedented opportunity for humanity.
We have been out of balance for so long. Out of balance with each other, out of balance with the earth.
Right now, humanity is waking up and realizing that nothing outside will save us.
Awareness is now growing that a whole systems crisis is emerging.
It's frustrating because I feel like younger people are going to have to bear the brunt of climate change and its effects.
I'm concerned about racial injustice and breakdowns in communication.
Can't just flip a switch and live sustainably.
The speed, magnitude, and depth of change that is emerging is not yet understood by most people.
For every degree Greenland temperature increases, melting increases exponentially. There are currently 9 active tipping points.
We've seen a palpable shift in wildfires in California, really the whole western U.S. over the last 6 years. We have every reason to expect that it's only going to get worse.
There is nothing left. The fire burned at such a high temperature.
Okay, you see hatches coming out from the sky. Everything was on fire.
Unfortunately, people at the bottom are going to be pushed even farther down.
This was up to our community to just create mutual aid.
Taking climate change seriously also means taking a completely different view of economics.
We're squeezing out much of nature with the byproduct of economic growth. At 3% economic growth, we will double the size of our economy every 20 or 30 years.
At the heart of climate justice is the understanding that urgent actions must be based on the well-being of local communities. A UN report projects that by the end of the century, more than 1 million species of plants and animals will be at risk of extinction.
I have experiences where I knew or I felt that this bay is a living entity.
I watched my 16-year-old come to terms with what her generation, the challenges and the struggles that they were going to have to face.
I expect we're going to face a great simplification in the coming decade.
If you let go of trying to get more of what you don't really need, it frees up all that energy that's tied up in the chase to turn and pay attention to what you already have.
And depending what we water, those will be the seeds that grow.
And that life evolves us.
Letting life itself work through us.
And that's what choosing Earth is about, choosing the well-being of all life.
I see this as an opportunity for us to evolve into the next phase of what we're meant to be doing here.
My preposition these days is through. Honey, we're going to have to go through this.
Coherence between our biology and the environment and the world around us. What the science is showing us is one of the ways to accomplish that is when we shift our attention from our thinking mind into our feeling heart. And sometimes it helps to make that shift by gently touching the heart center. So I'm going to invite you, if you haven't done so already, to close your eyes and allow your awareness to move from the world around you to the world within you. And I'm going to do the same right here. You gently touch your heart center in a way that feels comfortable and appropriate for you. And allow your awareness to move to the place where you feel the touch. And as we focus our awareness on this place, if we can breathe just a little bit slower than we would typically breathe, sending a very, very powerful signal to our body that we are safe, and in our sense of safety, we strengthen this deep, intimate relationship we have with our planet. So with me, I'm going to invite you to breathe a little slower on the exhale than the inhale. So let's do maybe 5 seconds on the inhale. Begin. And release. Just feel that shift in your body. Inhale. And release. Once again, inhale. And as you release, if you can continue just about that pace. This is the second step of a coherence process. And the third step invites us to feel a feeling in our hearts, a regenerative feeling, a positive feeling, such as gratitude. And I think for ease today, gratitude will be the word. Be very grateful for me, because I'm so grateful to be here with you today in this way. And when we create that gratitude from the place where we focus our breath and where we place that feeling, it establishes a link between the neurons of the heart and the brain, bringing us into that coherence with the planet that we live on. To the best of your ability, if you can feel that gratitude now, give us a few seconds to do that. I'm going to do the same. With one more breath, I'm going to invite you to inhale and release. And the science now tells us that the coherence that we create within our bodies is what we feed to the world beyond our bodies. And I can't think of a better way to begin this sacred time that we have together today and honoring our relationship to the earth than by feeding the field that connects all things. So with that, I'm going to invite you to gently begin to open your eyes, become present in the space that you've created for yourself. And on a personal note, I just want to let everyone know it feels really good to be here. And I'm very much looking forward and very excited about what we're going to see today. So Dwayne, Connie, everybody that's worked on this, thank you so much. And Deborah, I'm going to turn this back to you.
Thank you, Greg. That was beautiful. You all know who our wonderful discussion leaders are going to be today. Constance Buffalo, sharing perspectives on the relationship to creation from her Ojibwe heritage. And Duane, who gave us that the wonderful clip from the film that we just saw, which is based on his new book, Choosing Earth. And I think that's a really good idea for us to do, is choose Earth, because it's what we've got. And David Gershon, whose Cool City Challenge is designed to create carbon neutral cities worldwide by 2030, starting in California this year. So in general, we're going to be talking about healing our relationship with the earth from these different perspectives, and also what each one of us can do, because I know it feels really frustrating sometimes when we pick up a plastic bag or get in a car and we know that what we're doing is is not in the direction that's going to heal our relationship with the earth. So how can we make these changes at a scale that's really going to be meaningful? And that's what our conversation will be about today. Without any further ado, I'm going to pass the mic to our beloved Constance Buffalo, who has, by the way, she's been living on her reservation, which she hasn't been for a long time. And when a disaster struck in Ashland, she gave up her home to a family that needed a home. So bless you, Constance. And the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be with all of you and to see your faces again today. I've missed you. It is wonderful being back up in the Northland of the United States. Right on my tribe is right on Lake Superior, and to the left I have my tribe, and to the right I have Bad River, and it's so interesting to be living where everybody looks like you. It's I know it's a small thing, but it's really fun. So we are as we begin this today, we would always, if we were doing this in a traditional way, we would always be bringing in our ancestors and asking them to sit with us and to be with us and to listen to our words and to give us their wisdom and to share it. And so I'm going to begin this day inviting in all of your ancestors to be with us and to have you as the apex of all of those generations, and you as the fulcrum that will take us forward. Well, when we pray, we include all of our relations in our prayers. This doesn't mean just your grannies, nieces, and nephews. It means everyone and everything in the circle of life. Our creation story tells us that all life emanates from the great mystery. We call this Gishe Manidu. You would know some of our words are Anishinaabe Moan, also called Ojibwa, from Longfellow, by the lakes of Gitchigumi. Gitchi is Anishinaabe Moan. Gitchi is great, lake is Gumi. But in our way of saying, just changing that word a little bit from Gitchi to Gishe, it's the same spelling. It's that great mystery that's infused with nurturing and life-giving and regeneration and caring. And it's not a deity, it's a ubiquitous presence that moves like an energy through all of life. So from this great spirit, every aspect of creation has its own spirit, its own manidu and purpose for being. Together, they form a creation that is both sacred and meaningful. We humans are the last of the creatures who came to Earth, according to our stories. Before us came the stars and cosmos, the lands and oceans, the beings of the skies and waters, the singers in the form of birds who carried the seeds of life into the four directions and spread life across the earth. Every being of creation was born with a purpose, and the world flourished. Humans, as the last to be created, saw all those who went before them as their ancestors, as their elders. And through this awareness, our relationship to the world around us was born. So when we call in our ancestors in prayer, it means that we're calling all those who have gone before us. The mountains, the stars, the skies, the smallest, the seen, the unseen, all of the elements of what is called Earth, our mother. As the youngest, it's for us to listen and to learn from all of them, because we know that they can live just fine without us, but we can't live without them. In Genesis, the story of the days of creation is similar, except for one important difference. In the Ojibwa story, we are the children, and we are to be humble and respect those who came first and treat them as our family. In the biblical version, there's a hierarchical structure in which man is to dominate the animals and earth, and woman is to serve him. This basic cosmological difference sets the stage for the divergence in our belief systems of who we are and how we're to relate to life. Whatever our original story, it influences our culture, our values, our beliefs, and ultimately our actions. All of our stories tell us of the importance of relationships with the life around us. We are Ojibwa people, and most, I think all of us to some degree in some part of our hearts, assume a sentience to our ancestors, and out of myths are rich in lessons on how to, and our myths are rich in lessons on how to interact. When the world had flooded in our past, because people had forgotten how to be kind to the animals and to each other, in one version, Star Woman comes down to rebuild the earth on a turtle's back and gives birth to her twin babies. Well, the animals loved these two-leggeds. They slept in the fur of the great bear Muckwa and played with the rabbits, and they crawled and chased butterflies, and love abounded. But for all that caring, the children became weaker, and the day arrived when Star Woman tells the animals it's time to say farewell to the little ones. Sadly, the animals walk by devastated by this great loss. As Muckwa lumbers up to the sleeping children, he shocks everyone. He reaches into his side and draws out his own flesh. He tells Star Woman that he will not let the children die, and to take his meat and boil it and feed it to the children so they grow strong. Seeing this, the other animals make the same offering, and the relationship to the animals that day is consummated. With that covenant for life, there's some important qualities in our traditions that go beyond respecting these more than humans who have come before us. There's a reverence for all who we share creation with. I know you've felt it. It's a sense of awe at the complexity and beauty of the natural world. This reverence means that we can care for and protect our family, the circle of life, with all our creativity, actions, and heart. Our love and care are not quiet words. They're filled with a communion that's passionate and spontaneous. My uncle saw, along with others of our tribe along the shores of Lake Superior, that our waters were being contaminated by armaments dumped into the lake from past wars. The toxic chemicals were leaching into the water, and he and members from our tribe and other tribes used every skill at their disposal, at their combined disposal, to get funding and have the bleeding containers capped. This is the kind of action that emanates from love. Caring for ourselves and our relations can be a raindrop when one voice speaks, but when raised in unison with strategic planning, it can be a thunderstorm. Another quality that emerges from our sense of relationship with more than humans is reciprocity. Reverence without reciprocity leaves us takers from these many intelligent, sentient animals, forests, gardens, microbes, bees, and others who comprise our living world. Reciprocity can be an exercise in creativity that preserves and sustains our multi-species elders. It may be planting a tree, adopting a dog, buying an electric stove rather than gas, voting for candidates who support our environment, or reducing the amount of meat we eat. Whatever we can do, no matter how small, we acknowledge the generosity of the natural world in a way the vitality of the circle of life remains dynamic. and unbroken. I began with the story of our cosmology because from that cosmology we form our values. Earlier in our Ojibwa beginnings, we were given 7 gifts from the 7 grandfathers in the spirit world. These were wisdom, love, respect, bravery, honesty, humility, and truth. Our ancestors were also told that with each of these gifts comes their opposite. And it's for us to find the balance and choose what gives life its meaning. The look at values leads us into this time, your time. Hundreds of years ago, when my ancestors were living on the East Coast, prophets came to them and told them what was ahead. These prophecies, called fires, initiated our great Algonquin migration across the country. And 6 of the 7 fires, these prophecies, have been fulfilled. There remains only the 7th prophecy, and half of this prophecy is for you, not for the Ojibwa people. It says that the time will come when you will decide between 2 roads. If you choose the right road, then the 7th fire will light the 8th and final fire, an eternal fire of peace, love, brotherhood, and sisterhood. But if you make the wrong choice of roads, then the destruction which you brought with you will cause suffering and death to all of Earth's people. We believe we are in that time now. The balance of the circle of life is breaking in ways that may never be mended. In our lack of respect for our more than human relations, we're exterminating 150 to 200 species each day, killing over 10 to 15,000 elephants each year. And at this rate, they too may face extinction within a decade. Over 100 million sharks are killed each year. And since they're necessary for a balanced ecosystem, their extinction will create an irreparable rupture in their world. Timing. It's now for us to remember who we are in the circle of life and to act now before it's too late. And here's the good news. First and foremost, we're not alone. We have the power and energy of a tribe, not just the tribe of humans, but that of the living system that we're a part of. You are empowered by your spirit, your Manidu, and connected to the spirits of the life around you, interwoven together by Gishe Manidu, whose breath and presence is the energy of life itself. You are a living miracle of creativity, intelligence, wisdom, and action. All of these choices come now at this turning point when technology can connect us to each other in a way that has never before been possible. David Suzuki says that it takes 3.5% of the population to hit the tipping point where the trajectory of destruction of life can shift. Pray. Listen, create, and act together. Humble yourself to possibilities. The power is in our human and non-human tribe to come together, share ideas, and choose the right path. As I think of the paths, one is of taking exploitation and greed, and the other may be that of giving, respect, and reciprocity. But I don't believe they're static. I believe they're alive and created by our intentions, actions, and desire to mature as humankind and help create a future worthy of our children. What if we together, as an EL tribe, used our influence in all our networks to educate and ignite the awareness and actions of our respective constituents? Perhaps it would be our gift back and take us one step closer to that 3.5 solution. For you and all my brothers and sisters, miigwech, I will remember you. I will remember you in my prayers. and hold you forever in my heart. Thank you.
Miigwech. Miigwech, dearest Constance. Thank you for enriching us with these beautiful, powerful stories and encouraging us to choose wisely in this, dare I say, moment of choice. And what a beautiful and perfect background for our discussion today. And next we have our beloved Dwayna Elgin. You all know his incredible pioneering work, being a real bridge to the public with these ideas about how we can make the changes that we need to make in order to step fully into a new paradigm of love and caring for all creation. Tell us, Dwayne, about choosing Earth, choosing life.
First of all, thank you, Constance. I woke up at 3:30 this morning feeling both gratitude for this gathering, for the community of souls that come together as evolutionary leaders. Thank you all. It's such a meaningful time to be with you. Because I woke up with not only gratitude, but also grief at what is happening to our world. And Choosing Earth is a book and it's a project and such. But really, this work has been underway now in my life for 45 years, full on, for the last 45 years, with the hope that the kind of inspiration and insight and purpose that we share might find its home in the world. I'm having great difficulty seeing that. I'm instead seeing great tragedy growing in our world. And we, as the last beings, as Constance was saying, I think are seeing ourselves as the first and perhaps only beings that matter on this earth. And what I'm seeing in the world, I just can summarize very quickly what I'm seeing in the role of this community. On the one hand, I see enormous numbers of people that are either in denial or distraction. They're not paying attention to what's happening. And then there are others that are deeply understanding of what is underway in the world. They see the great prospect of extinction of humanity and much of life on this earth. And they've surrendered to that. And so there are two polarities that I'm seeing again and again, much more so than I ever thought I would, either of denial or surrender to our extinction. And in the middle path is a path that Constance speaks about that I think we hold in our hearts. And that's a path of promise, the path of moving through this time of tragedy, of challenge, and recognize this is a dark night of the soul for the species. And entering into the dark night, we don't know how it's going to work out. That's a part of the great mystery of not knowing, and yet trusting as we move into that darkness. And that's what I appreciate so much about this community, because we recognize the darkness, the fact that we don't know, but we trust and we show up and we give our gifts. So choosing Earth means choosing the well-being of all life, as Constance was so beautifully speaking. All life, not just human life and our exploitation of the earth and its abundance, but the well-being of all life. And so that's the work that I'm doing, we are doing. And I am grateful for that. And were it not for that, gratitude, I would be just consumed with grief for what I see developing on this earth. And I trust my not knowing. I trust the dark night of the species soul that we are now entering. And I trust evolutionary leaders have the gift of deep wisdom, insight, discernment to bring to that journey forward. Well, that's my sharing.
Oh, thank you so much, dear Dwayne. It is so important for us to acknowledge where we stand, what we have done, and the great urgency of what we need to do. Thank you, Dwayne. So to complete our triumvirate here of discussion leaders, we've invited David Gershon, Master Strategist. So David is actually working to reduce our carbon footprint block by block to a global scale. So David, would you like to say something in introduction, perhaps about the Cool City Challenge and just kind of bring us up to speed?
Let me start by saying thank you, Deborah. Thank you, Dwayne. Thank you, Constance. So beautiful to get inspired by your culture's wisdom. Dwayne, by your deep reverence, caring, and insight into our current condition and what's required to transform it. So I walk the path of promise. So what you're going to hear from me is hope and possibility and rationale for why one could be hopeful and why there is possibility in spite of all the challenges. And perhaps because of all the challenges, there's hope. Because someone said, and I'm paraphrasing, it's too late to be anything but hopeful. I've been working on the Cool City Challenge for 30 years. And the aspiration is to empower human beings to take responsibility for how we live as individuals within our communities and ultimately at the scale of the planet. Build agency, empowerment. And we built a program over the period of time that helps people reduce their footprint by 25 to 28%, get 56% of the people living on a block to participate. And we'd worked with current format 5 cities, but over time, a couple of hundred cities. So we've learned a lot about what it takes to change things from the bottom. The Cool City Challenge now has had the good fortune of receiving a very large philanthropic contribution of $6 million, which allows us to have the resources to invest $1 million each in 3 cities in California to start this journey. Based on the potential of success, we have promise of a lot more money to invest in 250 cities across the world. We have the good fortune of having a partnership with the governor of California and a number of other major partners. So we're going for it. What's possible? And so the big question is, where's the carbon? So let's just say, from my point of view, the organizing principle around the issue of the environment is climate change. As Al Gore said, it's the organizing principle for civilization. How do we address it? And it's the tipping point of many ways that we are out of harmony with the earth. And so when we did the research, we found that 70% of the carbon emitted comes from cities, and 70% of that comes from people living in the cities. So if you can empower people within cities and cities across the planet, you have a strategy for scaling and intervention. we've also seen that top-down policy, technology, market solutions by themselves are not getting traction. And that bottom-up change, the work that I've done for years, is not getting enough traction. They're all getting some traction, but not enough. So the organizing principle of the Cool City Challenge is, what would a whole system look like that brought it all together? And what could we learn from tipping point science for how to speed up time? So we're creating a new timeline. The world is operating from a timeline of 2050 or 2040. Scientists tell us we basically have a decade to turn things around. So how do we speed up time by an order of 300%, 3 times our current path? So the strategy is also meant to speed up time through understanding this, the understanding of tipping points and whole system designs. In June, we'll be announcing the Cool City Challenge across California. And there's a lot to be said about it. I won't go into all the details, but only to say that the initial feedback I've gotten from cities as large as Los Angeles and as small as San Luis Obispo, which isn't that small, is there's a tremendous excitement that there's a possibility of having these kinds of resources and this type of a strategy, we call it second order change, that could really disrupt the current dystopian thinking and fatalism that is so prevalent right now, with a real strategy that could move the dial. And once you start the tipping points of possibility being born, you change that belief system also. The last thing I want to say is, for me, the growing edge of humanity is not climate change. It's our lack of self-confidence in ourselves as a species that can take responsibility for our future. And so I feel the biggest challenge is building a sense of hope and agency based on a real pathway that gives us confidence. And part of what the Cool City Challenge does, that transcends climate change, is shows a path that could engage people and believe in the future and start building. As we know, metaphysically, if we give up, then the game is really over, whether climate change does it or we do it to ourselves. So showing how starts to give that hope.
Well, thank you, David. That was perfect. Let's close as we began, with a hand on our heart. And feel that love that we have for one another and for our magnificent Mother Earth. Gratitude to Constance and Dwayne and David, and for Greg for all that he added, and all of you for being here. And let's just take that love and let's close by sending it to one another.